You know, Agata, Kolya was ready to send you some of his poems, but as he read through them, he decided they weren't good enough. But they really are very good. Did you get Hansel's little song? We find joy in our little boy, and he's healthy. He talks a great deal and is full of antics. Not long ago, we spotted some goats, and he wanted to know if goats could talk. No, you mean God only lets them say ma, ma, and I can say Welchen Jubel, welche Freude? Of course he was right, and we marveled at his childish insight. November 13, 1933. Agnes writes, now that help is here, I can fill you in on some of the things that have occurred in the last while. We had received no packages. We had no garden this fall, no seeds planted, no land, and no hands to work it. When others were harvesting their potatoes and vegetables, I was bedridden, coughing blood and carrying a high fever. Our relatives helped where they could, but they were not much better off than we. God was still hearing our prayers. Although our neighbors shared with us, Kolya and Hans were constantly hungry. Many a prayer went up to heaven during that time. Kolya found people who sold us potatoes, carrots, and onions on credit. But now the crisis has passed. Your package has come, and a few days ago my brother Yash sent us money. God be praised. There will be better times ahead. We think about you very much. I still have nearly all my brothers and sister here, but Kolya has no family and is so lonely. Our happiness revolves about our child. May God repay you for what you've done for us. That is our prayer. When Kolya and I go to bed at night, we pray for strength to see this through. December 17, 1933. Agnes writes, in these last weeks I have felt better and have been busy preparing things for Christmas. We are planning some small surprises, and I know it will bring much happiness. Kolya is carving 2 little horses from wood and wants to make a small cradle. He also brought home some fir boughs so we can make a small Christmas tree. Thanks to your gifts, we can also have cookies, and Hans's dream of a Christmas tree and cookies can come true. Every year yet, we've been able to have a manger scene, still from our home. Hans can also sing the familiar Christmas songs, especially his favorite, Welchen Jubel, welche Freude. And when we're still in bed, he comes in singing, Oh, du Fröhliche, leise rieselt der Schnee, and Stille Nacht. It makes us so happy to see him sing like this. He's such a good boy. You should see how helpful he is. If I drop anything, he'll run right to me and pick it up. He takes care of his playthings. I sometimes feel I should never get up off my knees from praying that he'll one day become an upstanding man. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and the best of health, for all loads are lighter when one is in good health. March 29, 1934. Agnes writes, "The last few days have been filled with agitation and despair, as all the men of our villages who have been arrested before and after Christmas have been sent into exile. Among them are my brother David, your brother Hans, and his son Mitya, and many of our friends. It has been such a tragedy for those families. We are so happy that Hans is a strong Christian and that Mitya confirmed his faith in prison. The exiling of all these men is always on our mind, and we can talk of little else. Kolya is working very hard and bringing home an income, so we get by. We live from day to day. We look as little as possible into the future, because the specter of what has happened to Hans and his family and so many others haunts us daily. If we thought about it, we would despair. But God has said, it is enough that every day carries its own torment. Therefore, fret not. And that's how we intend to live. Again, I say, don't worry for us. God will find ways to help us. We take every day, thankfully, from his hand. We wish so much that things go well with you all, and that you keep your health."
July 6, 1934, Kolya writes, "Just now we received Agat's letter with the photographs and the picture for Hans. Agnes had set them on the table and surprised me when I came home for dinner. Life here is in constant turmoil and moves by us at a pace that we find difficult to keep track of in the passage of time. In the morning one goes to work, uninspired and tired, and at night one returns home spent and disturbed. Every day one is glad that the day is ended, and that the next day there might be something happy and hopeful. And at last, there are gray strands in one's hair, and before we know it, we become old. And where is life's leisure? Where are life's pastures? And where is the golden glow of happy memory? The times we live in are different than our dreams, and it would have been well for us to have been born a century earlier." Hansel's sitting in bed drawing a picture for Aunt Agatha. The flies won't leave him alone, and every so often I have to get up and shoo them away. We have a behaving, quiet, friendly little boy who gives us so much joy. Our hopes, our loves are all tied up in him. Please, God, allow us to keep our child as he is. Agnes is now relatively healthy, but the joys and sorrows of her soul reflect themselves in her physical heart, like the readings of a barometer, and swing as readily as the needle of a seismograph. Dear Agatha, Olga, and Yash, please write about your life in Canada. Every detail will be of interest to us, and the knowledge of your struggles and endeavors will bring us closer together, despite the great distance. How we yearn to hear happy songs again, and if we couldn't be worry-free, we could at least see worry-free people. Oh, for one glorious free Sunday."
writes, "This Christmas was completely different from any we've ever had. Kolya did not have a single free day from work. He did, however, construct a small tree with pine branches. It added a small touch of Christmas to the home. There were no presents. Hansel's eyes lit up when he saw the plate with a few cookies I baked and a few confections that we bought. We had decided that on Christmas Eve, we would let the boy eat his fill, which he did. My, how he ate. In between mouthfuls, he sang Welchen Jubel, welche Freude. He'll be a good singer someday. We also saw something in him that made us proud. As our Christmas tree was lit with candles, a lady with her children and her friends came by to talk, and Hans shared what was left in his plate with all the other children. They were hungry and couldn't get anything to eat besides corn. At first they declined to eat because it was his, but he insisted. They were all so happy. We wished we could have given them more, but we gave them all we had." You can't visualize the tragic hunger that is stalking the land. At the end of the year, we had several prayer evenings to prepare us for the coming hardships. That is why we are so thankful for your generosity and to God. We had a wonderful service on Christmas Eve in Botica. The church was overfilled with more than 1,000 people present, and the choir sang. It was such an uplifting occasion, a seldom occurrence now, that lifted us for a short few moments above the worries and cares of the everyday life. April 1935. Agnes writes, "We have been writing you letters, but it's doubtful that they were sent out of the country. There was too much written in them. And so we must be silent, always silent about what is actually taking place in our lives. Spring has arrived. There are violets standing on our table that Hans has gathered from the colony's garden with his father. The birds sing and scold in the treetops. And how are things with you, dear ones? Whatever it is, letters, news, cards, please send them to me, as we need to hear from you. Of course, we are all in God's hands. I beg you, just do it, otherwise there's no reason to go on. Yes, time moves on, and before we know it, we are old. Our life has relentlessly passed by. And how comforting to know that we have an eternal home, a permanent Father's house.
Summer 1935, Collier writes, "The talk is constantly about daily bread. The situation is getting so desperate that we really have no other way to turn unless God can show us in his wisdom another way. Yes, if we should meet, we'd probably be speaking different languages, and we who are here in the old country have no idea how others might evaluate us now. And so the balance of life swings between the struggles, dispositions, and partings, and produces extraordinary people. You know, it is such a great comfort for us to know that you are praying for us. The power of prayer is what helps us get through each day, and we really take advantage of yours. It is so necessary for our survival. Do you remember the song Mother used to sing to us? Can you count the many stars that shine in heaven's blue expanse? Do you remember the song? Perhaps you could write it down for us. There are times when work is done, when the mind picks up recollections that we thought were long forgotten. Yes, that time lies now in the distant past, yet it has left lasting footprints in our lives. I thank God for that memory, and that we had such a wonderful home. God bless you and keep you." July 6, 1936. Dear ones, it is done. On the second day of July, at 6 in the afternoon, Agnes died. With a strong and powerful love, God took her to him. She walked a steep and thorny path, but now she stands triumphant at her goal. She had been sick for 8 years, and the faulty valve in her heart could not be cured. Now, on the night of the 22nd of July, she had a kidney infection and died after 10 days and nights of agony and pain. She wanted to die, but she couldn't bear the thought of leaving our boy. We prayed together often, seeking God's will. I took her hands in mine and we prayed. Take thou my hands, O Father, and lead me. She became very quiet, and her eyes shone as she prayed. Praise the Lord, O my soul. This day became for us a day of joy. When our pain subsided, we talked of the early years, the youthful days of courting, our marriage, and the happy days we experienced when Hans was born, the days of sorrow, days of bliss that we shared together. The next days were difficult. The pain she bore was constant, day and night. I must share with you the verse she prayed again and again. How blessed are your ways, dear Lord. Yes, blessed and full of wonder. You cannot let us go astray, for faithfulness shows us the way. Through winding paths your children flee. You light the way that leads to me. Each faltering step, your wisdom shone, triumphantly leads to your throne. How heavily we feel the loss, particularly the boy. How can I console him? How can I help my son through this painful experience? I did not know that a 6-year-old could have such deep feelings. My heart aches when I look at him. I myself had reached the end of my strength. Do you know that in hours like this, a man can only stand aside? God console my abandoned child, your grieving brother, Lord.
Your
Ernst Penner was buried at the Kratitsa churchyard and with the row of relatives on her father's side of the family. She was 32 years old when she died. A few months later, on a rainy December 15th, 1936, Kolya was taken away at 3:30 in the morning. Those arrested were taken as criminals, a man in front with a gun and a man in back with a gun. In one night, over 100 men were arrested. After he was sent away, Kolya was never heard from again. 6-year-old Hans moved into his grandma Penner's house with his 2 maiden aunts. After they repatriated to Russia from Poland in 1945, Hans and his aunts were resettled in the forests of northern Siberia, working in a lake lumber camp, felling trees with saws and axes. It was during these years that his aunts died of dysentery and tuberculosis. After regaining freedom from the Siberian lumber camp in 1960, Hans was not allowed to return to home in Ukraine, so he began a new life in Kazakhstan upon the invitation of a friend. In 1965, he met and married his wife Irene, and they had a daughter Victoria. Hans, his wife, and his daughter lived in Heidelberg, Germany since 1988. Hans, who was a librarian in Russia, was employed by the city of Heidelberg. His wife worked at several social agencies as a translator. They had a comfortable apartment and were content in their present circumstances. Their daughter Victoria attended university and also worked as an interpreter. Hans Nickel wrote to his relatives in the Ukraine to make inquiries regarding his cousins, but it produced nothing but silence. Thus ends the recording of the letters from Kolya and Agnes Nickel. My father, Herbert Hamm, so poignantly observed, the letters of Kolya Nickel mirror the hopelessness that consumes those who cannot plan for tomorrow. A dry slice of black bread cannot nourish a flagging hope, nor a cup of barley conjure a vision for the future. That these letters reflect a steely faith tempered by the fires that bent but did not break under the weight of illness, hunger, isolation, and persecution. A precious legacy. The translation and recording of these letters is a tribute to my father, Herbert Hamm, my grandparents, Jake and Olga Hamm, and my great-great-aunt, Tanagata. Their foresight and devotion have made this document possible. The letters reveal an inherent commitment of love and generosity, an expression of loyalty that does not demand perfection, a Debbie that extracts no payment. The very nature of these letters were preserved. The very nature that these letters were preserved suggests strongly to us an unstated wish that we, the grandchildren and future generations, share its message.